Liu Ryan's first love has returned. Not only did she let him stay in our home, but she also gave him my pajamas and pants to wear as she gently blow-dried his hair. I suddenly realized, it turns out she's not cold and distant to everyone. I was originally on a business trip out of town, knowing that Liu Ryan had a social engagement today. I hurried back early. Without telling her, Liu Ryan has a bad stomach. She has ulcers, especially recently. The pain has been severe. If she couldn't avoid the engagement, I could only go back to prepare some herbal medicine for her. I thought I would give her a surprise, but I ended up giving myself a shock. I unlocked the door with my key. The lights inside were on. Liu Ryan had returned. But when I called out, no one appeared. I only heard the sound of a hairdryer coming from the bathroom. Following the sound, I walked over. The scene before me made me freeze in place. Liu Ryan wasn't alone. In the bathroom besides her, there was a strange man. The clothes the man was wearing looked very familiar. They were the same clothes Liu Ryan had given me some time ago. At that time, I had said that the outfit didn't suit me. Liu Ryan was quite upset about it. She said, "Wear it or don't." How could I not wear it? Her kindness toward me had always been something I accepted without question. But now, seeing the outfit on someone else, I felt it suited him much better than it ever did on me. As soon as this thought came to mind, the hand hanging at my side clenched tightly. The man was standing face to face with Liu Ryan. His hair was slightly damp. Liu Ryan stood on her tiptoes, holding the hairdryer, softly telling the man, "Lower your head a little." She complained, "Why are you so tall?" The man chuckled softly, but obediently bent down, lowering his head toward her. Through the half-length mirror, I saw a faint smile on Liu Ryan's face. Her lips curved upward, her eyes gentle. Gentle! I couldn't believe I was seeing gentleness on Liu Ryan's face. How blinding it was. Liu Ryan and I have known each other for 5 years, from meeting to marriage. She has a cold personality, cold to others. To me, it felt like nothing. Nothing seemed to stir deep emotions within her. She would smile, but the smile never reached her eyes. I hadn't thought much about it. I didn't mind. Everyone has a different character. Since I chose her, I had to accept all her strengths and flaws. At least she was different with me compared to others. But now, it felt like I was just others too. Leaning against the doorframe, my mind was in chaos, but I quickly forced myself to calm down. I knocked on the open door. "Sorry to interrupt you two." The romantic atmosphere instantly shattered by my voice. The two, standing just a few steps apart, finally noticed my presence. The man was momentarily stunned. He looked up at me. His expression changed from confusion to understanding. He raised an eyebrow, smirked at me, with a hint of provocation. "But Liu Ryan." My sudden voice had startled her. Liu Ryan nearly stumbled. She let out a startled cry. The man quickly caught her in his arms. My hand, which had instinctively reached out, froze in midair. Liu Ryan frowned at me and asked, "Why did you come back early?" I withdrew my hand, crossing my arms in front of my chest. "Why? Did I ruin your fun by coming back early? So have the two of you already slept together? Or are you just getting ready to?" Liu Ryan's face darkened immediately. "Jiboda, what nonsense are you spouting?" The suitcase in my hand slammed to the ground. "Why don't you look at what you're doing? A man and a woman alone together. Is this some sort of bathroom play? Playing it so boldly. Jiboda!" Liu Ryan seemed furious at this point. She glared at me with anger in her eyes. The man, who had been watching silently from the side, suddenly stepped forward. He shielded Liu Ryan behind him and spoke. "Mr. G, right? I think you're misunderstanding. There's nothing dirty between Ryan and me. We're just friends. Speaking like this about your own wife. Isn't that a bit inappropriate?" His tone carried an accusatory edge, as if I had insulted them. I chuckled softly. If you're going to say something so shameless, shouldn't you at least let go of my wife's hand first? Is it soft? Does it feel nice? Enjoying yourself? The man's face changed instantly. Mr. G, if you're upset with me, just say it. There's no need to use words like that about Ryan. I sneered. What's the matter? Are the words too crude for your tastes? You won't say it yourselves. But you're certainly doing it. The man, enraged, took a step forward. Ryan pulled him back with a reverse grip. Both of you, shut up. The man, still unsatisfied, protested. Ryan, are you just going to let him slander us like this? I laughed bitterly. And what else? Do you want her to insult me back? Or maybe hit me? That would only make things more complicated. After all, I'm still on the same household registration with her. Or maybe you two could be braver and tell me this is true love. I'm kind-hearted. I'm always willing to make way for true love. Shut up. Ryan grabbed my hand and dragged me out. Let's talk. I didn't resist. I just turned and smiled at the man. Make yourself at home. Ryan pulled me into the bedroom. She slammed the door shut with a bang. For the first time, her usual calm and composure seemed to waver. I glanced at the bed. It was tidy. Not a single wrinkle. I clicked my tongue in disappointment. Looks like you two didn't get the chance to sleep together yet. I must have come back too early. Gee, Boda, shut up. Ryan's eyes were blazing with anger. Why do you have to say such awful things? You weren't like this before. I chuckled softly. And how exactly do you think I should be? Get cheated on and say nothing? You're overthinking it. I was born in the streets. This is the real G. Boda. Surprised? Shocked? Ryan took a deep breath. G. Boda, I don't want to argue with you. Let's talk about this later. He's my college classmate. He just returned from abroad. He doesn't have a place to stay for now, so I let him stay here for the night. G. Boda, stop being unreasonable. I looked at Ryan. Is this what you closed the door to tell me? Ryan's silence was her response. Saying I wasn't disappointed would be a lie. I came in with her because I still had some expectations. I hoped that in the face of my sharp attitude, she would give me a reasonable explanation. But clearly, that was just wishful thinking on my part. Got it? Let him stay, huh? No problem, do as you please. After saying that, I turned to leave. Ryan grabbed my arm. Where are you going? I looked at her, stunned. Why should I stay and watch this mess? Ryan's grip tightened on my hand. Her nails dug deep into my skin. It hurt like hell. G. Boda, what the hell is wrong with you? I forcefully shook her hand off. What's wrong with me? Or what's wrong with you? Do you even know what you're doing? Ryan, stop disgusting me. I opened the door and walked out. The man had already changed out of the pajamas. Now he stood there, dressed sharply in a suit, looking all proper and polished. He forced a weak smile at Ryan. A sense of defeat was written all over him. Ryan, I think I should leave. I don't want to cause you any more trouble. He turned to me. Mr. G, you've misunderstood. Here, these are your pajamas. Right, I'll return them to you. He held the pajamas out to me. As he let go, I took a step back. The pajamas fell to the floor. Trash belongs in the trash can. What do you mean by giving him permission to stay? Ryan suddenly looked up sharply. She stared at me intensely. Her face was filled with mixed emotions. Suddenly, she spoke. You don't need to leave. You can stay here. The man's eyes lit up. But he hesitated and said, that wouldn't be right, would it? Between you and Mr. G. Ryan cut him off. You don't need to worry about it. If I say stay, you stay. Or do you want to stay at a hotel? Do you even have the means to? The man sighed. You know me too well. Their casual and indifferent conversation shocked me beyond words. I didn't want to say anything else. I picked up my suitcase from the floor and left without looking back. I hurried down the stairs. The cold wind hit me. I couldn't help but shiver. And then a wave of nausea overwhelmed me. Bending over, I dry heaved repeatedly. Sadness, anger, frustration. The flood of emotions left me disoriented. I couldn't sort through my feelings. All I felt was complete exhaustion, both physically and mentally. The calm facade I had put up, at this moment, shattered completely. It was absurd. I never thought something like infidelity would happen with Liu Ryan. People always say that men become corrupt once they get rich, but women are the same, especially in relationships like ours, where the woman is strong and the man is weak. You have to be more cautious. Keep a closer eye on her. I didn't know what to think of this. I didn't care if people said Liu Ryan was stronger than me. It was the truth, after all. But I trusted her. I believed that even if something happened between us, if we were to fall apart, we could at least part on good terms. It wasn't about love. It was about a person's character. But reality slapped me hard in the face. Liu Ryan, what on earth are you doing? And who exactly is that man? With these questions lingering in my mind, I returned to the old house. I remembered there was a photo album in the storage room. It was a birthday gift someone gave Liu Ryan during her college years. The album was full of pictures of Liu Ryan, some of her alone, and some with others. It was a carefully thought out gift. I asked her who gave it to her. She said it was from a college classmate. Someone doesn't go through such lengths unless they really like you, I had said. Liu Ryan didn't deny it, but I wasn't hurt by her honesty. Because of her frankness, I didn't ask further. After all, it's not the past that wounds a person, but the present attitude. The old house wasn't far. Just a 20-minute drive away. Compared to the new house, I like this old one better. Liu Ryan and I have lived here for 2.5 years. We only moved out after getting married. Sometimes when I was feeling down, I would come back here for a while. This place helped me relax. But today, as I opened the door and stepped in, my mood had never been this foul. I quickly found the album in the storage room. In the pictures, Liu Ryan looked so young and innocent, though she wasn't very expressive. Her youthful energy was evident in her eyes. Many of the photos seemed to be taken candidly, since they were mostly of her profile. In the few frontal shots, Liu Ryan was wearing her graduation gown. It was her graduation photo. She had pictures with different people, both girls and boys. I looked at each one carefully. Suddenly, my hand froze. This particular photo was different from the others. The two people in it were standing very close together, their arms pressed tightly against each other. The boy had a broad smile on his face, his body leaning slightly to the left, although the girl wasn't smiling. Her hand had wrinkled his sleeve from holding it too tightly. Despite some subtle changes in appearance, I immediately recognized her. It was Liu Ryan. On the back of the photo, two names were written, Liu Ryan and Zniu Z, and right between their names was a small, carefully drawn heart. I was woken up by the noise from the upstairs renovations. I hadn't slept well that night. I had been in a daze, never fully asleep. When I opened my eyes, my mind was still foggy. It took me a while to realize I was in the old house. It had been too late last night, so I didn't bother going anywhere. I just spent the night on the sofa. Now, not far from me, someone was sitting, their gaze fixed on me, impossible to ignore. It was Liu Ryan. I wasn't surprised to see her here. I remembered once we had a fight, and I stormed out. After barely an hour in the old house, she had found me. I asked her, "How did you know I was here?" Liu Ryan had simply said, "Where else would you go? Where else could you go?" She knew I had nowhere to go, because I'm an orphan. It was Liu Ryan who gave me a home. Someone once asked her, "Why don't you sell the old house?" She said, "Let's keep it. In case someone gets upset, they'll have a place to hide." My feelings for Liu Ryan were complicated. There was love and there was gratitude. I thought we could quietly walk through life together. I sighed. I went to the bathroom to freshen up. Liu Ryan had bought breakfast. I didn't hold back. I ate on my own. After finishing, I asked her, "Is his name Xinyu? He's your ex-boyfriend, isn't he?" The photo album was sitting there. Neither of us were fools. Liu Ryan replied, "Yes." I looked up at her. "Liu Ryan, what are you doing? Bringing your ex-boyfriend into our home, letting him wear my pajamas, blow-drying his hair. Are you playing out some romantic reunion? Are old feelings still lingering?" Believe it or not, nothing happened between us. I shook my head. "I don't believe you." Liu Ryan's face darkened. After a moment, she rubbed her temples and placed her receipts in front of me. "Last night, I slept at home. He stayed at the hotel. Here's the proof. If you need it, I can pull up the security footage. Nothing happened between us. That's the truth." I didn't look at the papers on the table. If Liu Ryan dared to place them in front of me, then they weren't fake. But still, he stayed at home. "And you stayed in a hotel." "Liu Ryan, your actions have me completely baffled." Liu Ryan said, "He's a light sleeper, and he has a cleanliness obsession. He can't stay in hotels." "Did he tell you that? Or are you just that considerate?" Liu Ryan glared at me. "Boda, talk properly. Don't speak so sarcastically." One thing after another weighed heavily on my heart. I had reached my limit. "I want to speak properly too," I replied. "But have you spoken to me properly? A light sleeper with a cleanliness obsession. And he can't stay in hotels? So is he that precious?" "But whenever I travel for work, I stay in hotels. And I've never heard you worrying about me even once. So is Xinyu somehow more special than everyone else? Or is it that Xinyu is more important in your heart?" Liu Ryan seemed to have been struck in a sore spot. She stood up, trembling with anger. "I've already moved out. I've already told you nothing happened. What more do you want?" Her words hit me like a thunderbolt, and I felt dizzy. I grabbed onto the table to steady myself. As calmly as I could, I said, "Divorce. I want a divorce." Liu Ryan's face changed instantly. "Shut up, Boda. Take those words back right now." She almost gritted her teeth as she said it. I stared at her, my gaze heavy. Liu Ryan closed her eyes. Her fists clenched tightly. When she opened her eyes again, the loss of control was gone. Divorce impossible. And so Liu Ryan and I fell into a cold war. I stayed at the old house. I didn't reach out to her. And she didn't come looking for me either. I had no idea what she was thinking. I was just waiting for myself to calm down. Calm enough to handle this situation as efficiently as possible. That day, her assistant called me. "Senior, did you and Director Liu have a fight?" The girl was my junior from school. She was quite capable back then when she kept hitting roadblocks while job hunting. I recommended her to Liu Ryan. Over the years, she's done well under Liu Ryan's leadership. She was grateful to me and always kept in touch. But this was the first time she had mentioned Liu Ryan to me. "What's going on with her?" I asked, hesitating for a few seconds. "Director Liu has a social engagement tonight," she said. "She drank a lot. I was going to call you, but then a strange man came and picked her up. He was driving Director Liu's car." There was a brief silence. I sent her a picture of Xinyu. "Was it him?" "Yes," she confirmed, her tone filled with concern. "Are you okay, Senior?" I let out a soft laugh. "I'm fine, the best I've ever been." It seemed like the divorce needed to be expedited. The longer I waited, the more I'd embarrass myself. I've always been a person of action. The next morning, I went straight to a lawyer and had a divorce agreement drafted. Liu Ryan and I had always kept our finances separate, so the divorce agreement was merely a formality. When Liu Ryan saw me at the company, she stiffened for a moment, but quickly returned to her usual emotionless expression. She said, "This is the office. If you have something to say, we can talk at home." "Home is definitely where we'll talk," I replied. But not right now. I placed the divorce agreement in front of her. Sign it. We'll head to the Civil Affairs Bureau once it's done. Liu Ryan stared at the divorce agreement. She looked at it for a long time. You came to me for this? The answer was obvious, so I didn't bother responding. But Liu Ryan tore the divorce agreement in half. Didn't I tell you divorce is not happening? I acted like I didn't hear her and took out another copy. She tore it up again. I kept producing more. She kept tearing them up until the 12th copy. Liu Ryan's face had turned frighteningly dark. Gee, Boda, have you really thought this through? I let out a bitter laugh. If I hadn't, do you think I'd be here messing around? She slammed the divorce agreement onto the table and signed her name with a heavy hand. To the Civil Affairs Bureau, Liu Ryan and I drove separately, arriving at the bureau one after the other. We were lucky. There weren't many people today. We didn't have to wait long. The staff member asked us, "Are you sure you've made up your minds?" I nodded, "Yes, I've made up my mind." Liu Ryan's gaze lingered on me. "And what about you? Have you made up your mind?" As soon as I looked at her, she averted her gaze. Her voice was cold. "Yes, I've made up my mind. All right, I'll file your paperwork. In 1 month, you can return to collect your divorce certificates." Watching the staff member busy with the paperwork, the tension I had been holding inside finally began to ease. But just then, Liu Ryan suddenly spoke. "Wait, what is it?" I asked, turning toward her. Liu Ryan looked at me and said, "Gee, Boda, are you really sure you want a divorce?" "I'm sure." Liu Ryan abruptly stood up from her seat. The chair she was sitting on made a loud bang as she stood up abruptly. "Gee, Boda, you're ruthless." After saying that, she stormed out without looking back. Leaving the room, the staff member asked, and I was left in a daze. So I could only lift my feet and chase after her. "Liu Ryan, stop right there." But she acted as if she didn't hear me. Her steps never slowing down. I jogged to catch up with her, grabbing her arm. "What do you mean?" Liu Ryan spun around suddenly and slapped me across the face. I was completely stunned by the hit. "Gee, Boda," she said, "I'll tell you this one last time. I am not getting a divorce." My anger ignited instantly. "What do you mean? What do you mean by not getting a divorce? Are you playing with me?" Liu Ryan took a deep breath, clearly frustrated. "How long are you going to keep this up? You left home and filed for divorce over something that didn't even happen. Do you think this is fun? Are you really that petty, acting like a child? Do you have any idea how exhausting this is for me?" I looked at Liu Ryan quietly. "I'm not playing games with you. Liu Ryan, I truly want a divorce." "Why?" she asked, her face full of confusion. "Just because of Xinu Z? Nothing happened between me and him. Nothing at all. Why won't you believe me?" "How can I believe you? Tell me, where is Xinu Z living now? In the place you arranged for him? Does he still not have a car? Is that why you gave him one? And why was he the one to pick you up after you got drunk? After he picked you up, where did you go? What happened after that?" As I said this, I shook my head with a bitter smile. In fact, there's no need to talk about all this. Just that one night alone. If I hadn't come back, what would have happened between you two? "Nothing would have happened," Liu Ryan said, becoming increasingly frustrated. "I was already planning to go to the hotel. It was part of my schedule. If you don't believe me, ask me anything. For the second time, I'm saying this. Liu Ryan, I don't believe you. It doesn't matter what you say now, what you do, or how much proof you provide. It won't change anything. I don't believe you, and I don't care what you did, or what might have happened between you two. I just don't trust you anymore. I'm someone who's good at cutting ties and letting go. If I weren't, I wouldn't have made it this far in life. Life hasn't been kind to me. So I've had to learn to protect myself. I won't let anything drag me down, because no one is pulling me forward. I'm an orphan, but before I was even born, I was already unwanted. My mother didn't know she was pregnant until after my father died in a car accident. She didn't want to have me. I can't blame her for that. It was my grandparents who begged her to give birth. They told her she could give me up right after I was born. They said they would raise me themselves. They gave her my father's inheritance and the car accident compensation money. They bought me with that money. And so she gave birth to me. Once her confinement period was over, she took the money and left. It was my grandparents who raised me. As for my birth mother, I feel nothing for her. No love, no hate, and no longing, because all of that is useless. It would only bring me pain, so I let it go. Later, my grandparents passed away one after another. At the time, I was in middle school, a young child who had suddenly become a complete orphan. The sadness and despair, I processed all my emotions in a month, and then started living again. Later, someone offered me $100,000 to buy my grandparents' old house. I agreed. Everyone called me a fool. They said it was a bad deal, that I was being taken advantage of because I had no adults in my family. But that's precisely why I knew I couldn't keep the house. If I couldn't keep it, I had to let it go. Besides, I needed the money. I needed to continue my education. I needed to survive, so I sold the house and left the place I had grown up in. Now it's about Liu Ryan. She didn't explain herself to me right away, and after that, whatever she said, I wouldn't believe it anymore. I don't want to become paranoid. I won't let myself be consumed like this. Let's get divorced, there's no need to make this ugly. But she refused. The more determined I was to divorce, the more determined she was not to. Her stance was just as firm as mine. I couldn't understand her anymore. When negotiations failed, I decided to file for divorce. But what I didn't expect was, the day after I filed my lawsuit, Liu Ryan retaliated with economic sanctions against me. She decided to terminate all cooperation with my company. The very reason Liu Ryan and I met was because of my company. At that time, I had just graduated from university. I started a business with a few alumni. Back then, we were full of ambition. We thought we could conquer anything, even mountains and seas. But reality was much harsher than we had imagined. We had no funding, no connections. No one willing to invest in us. Not even anyone willing to give us a chance. To present our business ideas, there were too many people like us, filled with passion, trying to start their own businesses. Most people like us ended up in the same place, just when we were on the verge of despair, ready to give up and take regular jobs. A company reached out to us. They said they were willing to talk. It felt like grabbing a lifeline. Who would have thought it was nothing more than a piece of straw? The female head of the company told me, sleep with me for a year, and I'll give you whatever you want. I didn't hesitate to refuse. But they wouldn't leave me alone. In the chaos, I ended up smashing a bottle of alcohol over her head. I was arrested. She threatened to make sure I spent the rest of my life in prison. I had prepared myself for the worst. But then Liu Ryan appeared. She was like a savior, effortlessly handling the situation, getting me out on bail. She even sent people to negotiate a partnership with our company. At first, I thought she was like the others, just playing some rich person's game with me. So I started unbuttoning my shirt, smiling as I asked, "Shall we get straight to it? Or would you prefer I take a shower first?" But instead, she calmly buttoned up my shirt, one button at a time. "You don't need to do this." I asked her, "Why are you helping me?" She replied, "Just consider it as me pitying you." I accepted her pity gladly. There was nothing to feel offended by, because I truly was pitiful at that time. And so, with Liu Ryan's help, our company grew and succeeded. But now she's using that same situation to control me. I have to admit, she's succeeded. When I arrived at Liu Ryan's office, I asked her, "What do you want?" Liu Ryan looked up at me. "Withdraw the divorce filing," she said. We stared at each other. her calmness clearly showing her resolve. I let out a small laugh. Is that all? Fine. I'll withdraw it immediately. Anything else? My quick agreement didn't seem to satisfy Liu Ryan. Her brow furrowed tightly. After a moment, she asked, when are you moving back? That was also part of the deal. Liu Ryan's lips pressed into a thin line. Fine, I understand. I'll move back today. Is that good enough? Liu Ryan threw the pen she was holding onto the table. Get out, she said coldly. The smile I had forced on my face vanished the moment I got in the car. I despised the feeling of being controlled by someone. No one should have that power over me, not even Liu Ryan. I made a phone call. Everyone, wait for me at the office. We need to have a meeting. The meeting lasted a long time, ending only in the early hours of the morning. But it didn't produce the results I had hoped for. My plan was to find a new business partner. The market is huge. It's not just about Liu Ryan. If Liu Ryan can call things off anytime, we can switch partners anytime too. But they disagreed. They've been comfortable for too long. They prefer stability over change. Liu Ryan's terms were generous enough. No matter how we end the partnership with her, we would suffer some loss. Their thinking was, as long as Liu Ryan is willing to work with us, she should be the first choice. I sneered at this. So this is what it means when they say, when paths diverge, cooperation becomes impossible. It seems it's time for me to step away, but I would need some time before leaving. I needed to ensure that the money I walked away with wouldn't shrink. So I moved back home. When I got back, Liu Ryan was still awake. She was sitting in the living room with her laptop. When she saw me, she took off her glasses. Let's talk, she said. I refused outright. I'm tired. Let's do it another time. Liu Ryan's face darkened. I pretended not to notice and headed straight to the guest room. I didn't know which rooms Inuzi had slept in that night. I didn't know what he touched or what he used. But everything in this house felt alien and tainted to me now. In the end, I grabbed a sheet and spent the night on the sofa. But when I woke up, I found a blanket had been placed over me. That made my expression immediately darken. I angrily threw the blanket to the floor. Liu Ryan was in the kitchen frying eggs. I shouted at her in frustration, demanding an explanation. Who told you to cover me with a blanket? I shouted, making Liu Ryan stop what she was doing. She took a deep breath. The bed sheets and covers have all been changed and are clean, she said. I gritted my teeth. That doesn't matter right now. This entire house, even the air in here makes me feel sick. Jibota, you're being unreasonable. Liu Ryan snapped. You're going too far. She only stayed for one night. Nothing happened. What exactly are you making a fuss about? I let out a cold laugh, staring at her. You think I'm overreacting? Let me bring a woman home. Give her your pajamas to wear. And hold her while I dry her hair. Then you'll understand how I feel. You wouldn't dare. Liu Ryan's eyes flared with anger. I shook my head calmly. It's not that I don't dare. It's that I won't because I have principles. I wouldn't stoop to such a disgusting level. Our conversation ended badly, with her dumping the breakfast into the trash, her face cold as she went back to her room. I didn't hold back either, slamming the door loudly behind me. And so, we fell into another Cold War. I was busy, leaving early and returning late. Liu Ryan was busy too, for several days. We didn't even see each other. During this time, I met with some people and discussed some matters, mainly about selling my shares. If I wanted to sell my shares, the company insiders would be the first choice. But their stance was to clear. They weren't on my side. To maximize my interests, I had no choice but to turn to outsiders. The only favor I left them was to spread out the shares, ensuring that the people who took the shares would have no decision-making power in the company. As for whether they want to buy the shares back later, that's their business. Everything went smoothly with the negotiations. As the money started coming in, I fully withdrew from the company. They were furious. They came storming in to confront me, faces red with anger, ready to tear everything apart. It wasn't a pretty sight. I gave you a choice, I said. You were the ones who didn't take it. Honestly, things turned out fine this way. Liu Ryan and I were bound to have a fallout eventually. At least now, when that happens, it won't involve you. And besides, if I'm out of the picture, you can't say you never considered this outcome yourselves. Their eyes flickered, avoiding my gaze. You're talking nonsense, they shouted. When did we ever think of something like that? I lost interest in continuing the conversation. It's because you're afraid of Liu Ryan. Otherwise, once the rabbit is dead, who remembers the dog that hunted it? Who would remember anyone at all? With the company issues resolved, the next thing to settle was my account with Liu Ryan. But what I didn't expect was, before I could go confront Liu Ryan, Ziniuzi me first. He said he wanted to talk. I agreed. As soon as we sat down, he immediately asked, "Why haven't you divorced her yet? Boda, don't you have any dignity? A grown man being taken care of by a woman. How long are you going to keep clinging to Liu Ryan?" His words made me laugh. And what role do you think you're playing to say these things to me? Her lover, a kept man? Or maybe the golden boy she's supporting? Has Liu Ryan even acknowledged your status? Because from what she told me, you have absolutely nothing to do with her. Do you understand what that means? You don't even qualify to be her side lover. I looked him up and down with a smirk. And it's not that I don't want a divorce. It's that Liu Ryan doesn't want it. That's about the extent of your power. Ziniuzi's eyes flared red with anger. You're lying. Why wouldn't Liu Ryan want a divorce? She doesn't even like you. If it weren't for... He suddenly stopped mid-sentence. I looked at him, puzzled. If it weren't for what? If it weren't for what? Ziniuzi grinned, a smug expression spreading across his face. Haven't you ever wondered? You and Liu Ryan are from completely different worlds. Why did she suddenly appear in your life? And why did she go out of her way to help you? Boda, don't tell me you thought all of this was just a coincidence. You're way too naive. I asked him, what are you trying to say? Ziniuzi leaned back, acting nonchalant. If you want to know, then beg me. I stared at him quietly, then let out a mocking laugh. Keep it to yourself then. Don't you dare say a word. With that, I got up to leave. Ziniuzi panicked. Boda, stop right there. I kept walking. Boda, he shouted as I opened the door to leave. Wait, Ziniuzi raised his voice. Come back. I've got something to show you. I smirked, then casually sat back down. Ziniuzi, now much calmer, had lost his initial arrogance. That's more like it. This is how you have a proper conversation. With a cold expression, Ziniuzi cut to the point. He pulled out a photograph, sliding it across the table to me. He said, "This is a photo of Liu Ryan and her adoptive mother." I lazily glanced up to take a look. In the photo, Liu Ryan looked about 5 or 6 years old. She was small and skinny. If Ziniuzi hadn't told me, I wouldn't have recognized her at all. As I wondered why Ziniuzi was showing me this picture, the woman's face in the photo stunned me. A distant memory suddenly surfaced. I had seen this woman before. Back at my old home, buried beneath the pile of clothes in my grandmother's closet, at the very bottom, there was a dark red booklet. It was a marriage certificate. When I opened it, there was a photo inside. The photo showed two people. One was my long-deceased father. I didn't know much about Liu Ryan's family background. All I knew was that both her father and mother had passed away. She had no siblings and no close relatives. Like me, she was an orphan. The only difference was she had money, while I was dirt poor. Liu Ryan visited her parents' graves every so often. I once offered to go with her, but she refused. She simply said it's not necessary. That not necessary from her also stopped me from taking her back to visit my grandparents' graves. Sometimes I wondered if the way we were living was right or wrong, but I never found an answer. I had no experience in relationships, nor any elders to guide me. In the end, all I could tell myself was, it is what it is. With that mindset, I continued my relationship with Liu Ryan for 5 years. And now, Zniuzi was telling me that these 5 years had been nothing but a joke. Zniuzi said that Liu Ryan was an orphan, in the truest sense of the word. An orphan who had grown up alone, but she was very fortunate. When she was 6 years old, she was adopted by a wealthy couple. The couple had no children and treated her as their own, especially her adoptive mother, who loved her as much as if she were her own biological daughter. Her adoptive father passed away when she was 12 due to illness, and 6 years ago, her adoptive mother was diagnosed with cancer, pancreatic cancer. She held on for 6 months, but eventually passed away too. On her deathbed, Liu Ryan's adoptive mother told her something. She confessed that she had a son. She said she had wronged her son and hoped that Liu Ryan would find him and take care of him. Do you know who that son is? Zniuzi looked at me, a twisted smile spreading across his face. At that time, Liu Ryan and I were still in a passionate relationship. Then suddenly, she told me she wanted to break up. She said she had to fulfill her mother's last wish. But why? She was my girlfriend. How could she just break up like that? She had to complete her mother's wish. But what about me? Gee Boater, look how lucky you are. Even in death, your mother was thinking of you. She made Liu Ryan your protector. But what about me? Why should your family's fate be the sacrifice for my love? I took the photo from Zniuzi, but before I could leave, he called out to me again. Jibo replied, "You will divorce Ryan, right?" He said to me, "Are you sure you want to take back someone who discards you so easily?" Liu Ruyan, let's talk, I said. I arranged to meet Liu Ruyan at home. He arrived half an hour later than me. He leaned tiredly against the sofa. Where do we start? I thought. Forget it. Let's just get to the point. I placed the photo in front of Liu Ruyan. So, your foster mother is my birth mother. The hand Liu Ruyan was using to rub his temples froze. Who gave you this? I shook my head. That question is meaningless. Let's talk about something that matters. The name Xiaoyu. Liu Ruyan collapsed back onto the sofa in defeat. I should have known only he had seen this photo. So, what do you want to say to me? There was a long, long silence. Just as I thought Liu Ruyan would keep silent forever, he finally spoke. From his mouth, I heard a more detailed story. My foster mother used to be a remarkable woman, he began. She started her own cosmetics brand from scratch. Later, she met my foster father. The two of them ended up together. But my foster father couldn't have children. He was unable to have his own. So my foster mother suggested they adopt from an orphanage. That's how they adopted me, Liu Ruyan said. The greatest fortune of my life was meeting them, becoming their child. But the good times didn't last. My foster father passed away. Then my foster mother got cancer. He looked at me as he spoke. Up until that moment, everything changed. Only then did I learn of your existence. Jibo, I hope you understand. He always thought of you. He never forgot about you. The reason he was good to me. Was to make up for what he owed you. He transferred all of his guilt for you onto me. He loved you. His greatest wish before he died was for you to be well. He hoped you would forgive him. I'm sorry it took so long to tell you. As I listened to Liu Ruyan's story, I kept waiting for myself to break down or explode. But no, I was calm. As I had never felt before, rebellious yet serene. I quietly uttered two words. Liu Ruyan looked at me, shocked. After thinking for a moment, I said, for the sake of us sharing the same mother. Let single quotes s part ways peacefully. Let's finalize the divorce soon. Jibo, Liu Ruyan called my name. But he didn't say anything further. After a long pause, He asked, "Are you still holding a grudge against him? He's already gone. Can't you forgive him for the sake of the departed?" I let out a long sigh. It's not about that if you really want to know ... I teased just ... bad luck. Jibo, he said again. Shut up, I hummed in response. I gave a small, bitter laugh. Fine. What do you want to hear? That I've forgiven him? That I loved him to death? That he was the best mother in the world? That I will remember him for the rest of my life? Thank him for everything, right? Is that what you want? I could even say it in front of his grave if you need. Now, can we talk about the divorce? Jibo, I know my own name. You don't need to keep reminding me, Liu Ruyan said, barely containing his frustration. I know this is hard for you to accept right now. There's no rush. Take your time, he said. When you're ready, we can talk. I waved my hand dismissively. No. Let's talk now. Hurry up. Say what you want to say. What are your demands? What do you need me to do? I could even go visit your foster mother's grave every year. That's what you want. As long as you divorce me, just let me go. Every word I exchanged with Liu Ruyan, every second spent together, made me feel utterly miserable. It was like discovering a fly in my sandwich. Except this fly was only half eaten. Jibo, I'm not divorcing you. I promised my mother I would take care of you, Liu Ruyan said firmly. Perfect, the other half of the fly went down my throat. Liu Ruyan, respect the dead all you want, but I don't want to dishonor your mother, but you're leaving me no choice. Liu Ruyan frowned, clearly resisting. You say your foster mother was remarkable, that she built her cosmetics empire all by herself. But do you know where her money came from? Liu Ruyan stared blankly, unsure. I know it was my father's blood money. Do you know how ruthless she was? She took all of my father's compensation money. Every penny of his salary, nothing was left behind. Your foster mother took it all. When she left ... she was afraid my grandparents would stop her. So she pretended to take me for a walk. And she left me behind. Abandoned me. Behind a barn ... just to buy herself more time to escape. It was winter. I nearly died in that barn. Impossible, Liu Ruyan instinctively denied. I continued unfazed. I don't hate him. Hating him would be a waste of my energy. To me, he was just an insignificant stranger. But you keep telling me he loved me, that he cared for me ... that he felt sorry for me. Where was he when I was digging in the dirt with my grandparents, trying to scrape together enough to survive? Where was he when, after my grandparents passed away, people threatened to sell me if I didn't sell the house? Where was he when I was bullied, to the point that I almost took a knife to end it all? During my sophomore year of college ... when my money was stolen ... every last cent of my tuition and living expenses gone ... I nearly jumped from the top of the building. Where was he then? Why bother talking about love? To me, he was a stranger. If we talk about feelings ... he deserves to burn in hell. Every word I spoke drained the color from Liu Ruyan's face. I didn't know. My mother wanted to make it up to you. Jibo, he just didn't know how to face you. I let out a bitter laugh. Poor him. He had everything he needed. Every comfort in life ... But I was just a grain of sand, irritating his conscience. I really am such a nuisance, aren't I? That's not what I meant. Liu Ruyan hurried to explain, but it was clear he wasn't good at explaining. The intensity of the emotions left me feeling a little sick. I raised my hand to press against my temples. You people are truly something, because you felt guilty toward me. So you thought compensating me was the right thing to do. Am I dead? If you felt guilty toward me, shouldn't you compensate me directly? Your mother had cancer, afraid she wouldn't rest in peace after death. So she threw her responsibility onto you, so she could leave with a clear conscience. And as for you, you felt indebted. You had to repay that debt. You had to complete the task. So you married me. What a mess I've been dragged into. I looked at Liu Ryan, curious. Why did you think the best way to compensate me was by marrying me? Did you think I couldn't find a wife on my own? You might as well have given me more money back then. Seriously, Liu Ryan. Let's get a divorce. I came from her womb. There's proof of the birth, a birth certificate. It's easy to prove I'm her son. If you still refuse, I'll have no choice but to take you to court. That day, I rambled on about many things. Liu Ryan only said a few words at the beginning, then stayed quiet, listening. We both knew there was no way forward for us. Divorce was inevitable. I waited 3 days for Liu Ryan. She finally agreed. This time, she drafted the divorce agreement herself. She gave me more than half of her assets, including company shares and other things. I didn't look closely. I wasn't interested in those things. I never cared about material wealth. My therapist once told me, my biggest problem is a lack of desire. I don't have a strong desire for anything. Even money, I had no strong desire for it. It's easy to understand, since there's no one behind me, and no one ahead of me either. My therapist asked me, what do you truly want? You need to find something you desire most, or else you won't even have the will to survive. I thought for a long time, and then I told him, I want someone to love me. I worked hard at life, worked hard at my job, and worked hard to become a better person, all because I wanted to be loved. But Liu Ryan destroyed all of that. She ruined my 5 years. I despise her, but I can't hate her. I can't let her leave such a deep mark in my heart. I have to remind myself, at least she helped me once. Whatever her motives were, she did save me when I was in a tough spot. All I need to do is let go of her. Cutting ties, that's what my therapist told me. You have to decisively let go of the things pulling you down, and then move forward without hesitation. The ones who love you are ahead of you. Liu Ryan and I officially registered our divorce at the Civil Affairs Bureau. A month later, we received our divorce certificate. I decided to leave this city. Zmuzi left too. He said it's really pointless. I couldn't let go of her for all these years. And it turns out she was nothing special after all. Do you think I wasted all these years on a fool? Oh, and by the way, I owe you an apology for meddling in your lives. I'm sorry. I didn't forgive him, but I didn't hate him either. He was just a passerby in this messy period of my life. He tripped me up, but all I got was some dust on my knees. I brushed off the dust, stood up, and continued walking forward. I didn't look back. A true hero never looks back with pride. It wasn't until Boda left the city that Liu Ryan began to truly understand him. In the past, Boda had just been someone to repay. She married him, gave him resources, gave him money thinking that was enough. To Liu Ryan, Boda was a vague symbol, thinner than paper. She never saw Boda brewing medicine for her. She never saw Boda's hopes. To her, Boda and her blind self spent 5 wasted years together. It wasn't until 3 months after Boda left that Liu Ryan learned. He had been seeing a therapist all along. The therapist refused to disclose any details about his patient. But they said, living was always a challenge for Boda, but he always tried his best. He's the strongest patient I've ever seen. From that day onward, Liu Ryan started searching for Boda. She had no intention of disturbing him. She just wanted to know if he was safe. A year later, she finally found him in a small, remote town. But he wasn't alone. He was holding the hand of a small toddler just learning to walk. At that moment, Liu Ryan's face turned ashen. She booked a flight that night and rushed to that city. When she saw Boda, he was darker, thinner, but there was a softness about him. Boda looked at her, surprised. It's been a long time. For the first time, Liu Ryan felt completely at a loss. Long time no see. Her gaze kept drifting to the child. Did you get married? She asked. Boda chuckled softly. Seamless transition? Not that smooth. He explained, I adopted the orphan. Liu Ryan's heart soared, and then fell just as heavily. She exhaled slowly, feeling as if she had narrowly escaped something disastrous. In that moment, she realized something. She had been hoping to reunite with G-Boater, hoping for a second chance. She realized she loved G-Boater, but G-Boater said, I won't ever get married again. Liu Ryan suddenly wanted to cry. What had she done over these years? Can I come see you in the future? Maybe visit the child? G-Boater shook his head. It's better if you don't. Otherwise, I'll have to move again. It's a hassle. Liu Ryan felt even sadder. Suddenly, she felt overwhelmingly lonely. She didn't want to leave. She wanted to buy a house near G-Boater and settle there. But she knew she couldn't do that. All she could do was say goodbye to G-Boater. Goodbye, she said. G-Boater smiled faintly. Let's live our own lives, and don't come looking for me again. And a week after Liu Ryan's appearance, he took the child and moved away. He was showing her through his actions, not to look for him again, not to disturb him. When Liu Ryan found out, she drank through the night. Her stomach pain so severe that it brought her to tears. But she had lost the person who used to make her medicine. She gave up on searching for G-Boater again. All she could wish for was his happiness. The story has come to an end.